for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Ruben Amorim, being whether or not he's a good fit for Manchester United. We'll discuss this weekend's Premier League fixtures. We'll discuss Atletico Madrid's loss to Real Betis, Chelsea, whether or not they'll finish in the top four. And please stick around for the end of the show where I'll be giving you my reaction to some of the top headlines going on in the football world. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear your input. Is a big part of what makes this show successful, and we thrive on your energies and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, please don't hesitate to drop in the chat. And if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Just use the super chat button at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your question gets read on the air, and is also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking, hit that super chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you could always go to the gsmcpodcast.net to tip and donate, to leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. And we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We do have to start off though with Ruben Amorim. More and more possibility, that he is becoming a United manager as time goes on. It's clear that is Man United's leading candidate, and they don't even want to give this interim manager thing a possibility like they did with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They don't even want that to be an option. They're it's clear they want a permanent manager, and they want the permanent manager in as quickly as possible. We saw today when Ruben Amorim was leading the sporting team. They played today. The sporting supporters, they applauded Ruben Amorim as he walked towards the bench ahead of the match against Nacional, and it seems like it's a possibility that it's a good possibility that this might occur, and we saw during the press conference they asked him, will he be at the dugout or Old Trafford on Sunday? He said, I will be here, and then they said definitely, and then he jokingly said, I don't know, which, we know the reports came out as well that United are set to pay the 10 million exit clause for Ruben Amorim, and it's said that he's going to become the United manager. Sporting have also confirmed that they've received that formal communication from Manchester United so that Amorim can be the manager of United. Amorim, he has said yes to Manchester United as well. It seems more and more likely that it's happening. There's many ways you can analyze this. First of all, his Sporting Lisbon team has had some really good success in League Portugal. When you look at the fact that they have to go up against Porto and Benfica that have, the fierce competition in the Portuguese league, of the resources that they've had, and he's been able to compete there. They're currently sitting right now first place. Actually, they're 9 of 9 in the Portugal league. You look at what they've done in the Champions League, they've been pretty solid as well, with 2 wins and a draw, 7 points from 3 games, and he's leaving a sporting team that has had a really, really good start, or he's potentially leaving a sporting team that's had a really, really good start for this deep project. That is Manchester United, and to call it a project, to call Manchester United at this current stage a project is the understatement of the year. It is it's a challenge. It's a challenging job, and Ruben Amorim now, it's a difficult thing to to move different leagues mid-season into a club that's in a little bit of a disaster positioning and try to change it around. He is going to face some difficulties. He is going to face some challenges. He is going to face some criticisms, because that's what it's like when you are managing for a club like Manchester United. Uh, as far as Ruben Amorim, who is he? Why is he United's top target? What has he achieved? What are his tactics, his playing style? We go into all that. First of all, he's a former player. He's actually, he's a lot of the times, these managers, they're not really that good of a player, but this is a manager that was good enough to play for his international team, earning 14 cups. He was a central midfielder in his days. He became the manager of Sporting in 2020, and since then he's won multiple trophies. He won the Portugal League in his first season in 22-21, and then he repeated that in last season as well. In this past season, they won the league. They had 90 points. They scored a ridiculous 96 goals. And they played some really, really good football. He's also won the Portuguese League Cup 3 times. He did actually one of them with Braga. The other 2 was Sporting. He's also achieved some decent success in European competition. He has quality wins over Borussia. Dortmund. He had a draw. They had a draw away to Manchester City as well in the round of 16. But that has context. City beat Sporting 5-0 in the first leg in Lisbon. But they beat Tottenham at home and held a draw away in the 2022-23 season. They were the team that stunned the Arsenal in the round of 16 on penalties in the Europa League in that season as well. So they have some. He's had some achievements in Europe. Amorim, he had that team that scored a really really good team where they were able to get 96 goals at for Sporting Lisbon this past season. But they can control possession against weaker teams, and they can create a lot of opportunities, but they can be a pragmatic team. And Ruben Amorim, he's known to be a pragmatic coach. He wants to be known as the next Jose Mourinho. He explained why he's not the new Jose Mourinho, but he wants to be like Jose Mourinho, like the idol. That's how the media sees it in Portugal. And he happens to be a more pragmatic coach. He has his preferred formation, which is the traditional back 3 that turns into a back 5, the 3-4-3, heavy reliance on the wing backs with the 3 center halves and the double pivot in midfield, and then the normal front 3. The fullbacks a little bit more attack-minded, as they are wing backs, and you want to rely on them for more wits in the attack. So there is that to them. There is that, and that is the playing style. And they can be defensive at certain times. They can still be devastatingly dangerous on the counter. They can create a lot of opportunities. We've seen Sporting do that. As I said again, they scored 96 goals in a season for a reason. And I think it can fit to the players of the Lisandro Martinez's, the De Ligt, him coming in. I do think that third center half position is a weakness though at Manchester United, and I think it will be Harry Maguire initially to start off, but that's something they will need to assure off. But I can see how it'll work. I think Ugarte is a good player to play on one of those double pivots, playing him next to Manu. I think you can work something out there. I think I definitely think there's something that Ruben Amorim can work with at this United team. Um, and and despite them being pragmatic, Sporting heavily was able to control possession. They were able to control possession throughout the duration of Portuguese league, 60% of the time. Now it's a little bit different. They have the third most expensive squad in the Portugal league, so they have the quality. With United, they have a squad, yes, but they don't have the third best talented team in the Premier League. And they'll be playing also, not this season, but potentially later on in Ruben Amorim tenure. They will play Champions League games in which they'll be going up against opposition with better teams. And I believe with the Ruben Amorim, Manchester United could be comfortable not being able to control possession. Now the thing is, how do Manchester United fans take in this approach? Now, the fact that there's approach is an important thing the first time. There's a philosophy, there's an understanding of how he wants to play, how he wants to go about it. There's a set formation and a foundation that we never really had that from Ten Hag. We did not know how he was going to line up game in, game out, the formation, the choice of players, any of that, the style of play. There is, from what we've seen at Sporting Ruben Amorim, there is a set of way that he wants to go about it. Now the thing is, can he transition that? Can he, bring that to Manchester United? Erik ten Hag struggled to bring that Ajax way into Manchester United. He struggled, despite bringing in countless players that came from the Dutch system and all that. He struggled. The performances were not good enough. Is Ruben Amorim able to come into this United team and adjust on the fly, which will be a difficult thing to do? Now, is he a good fit for Manchester United? Yes, because I feel like they need a man. That getting a pragmatic manager will do the deal. They went for the attack-minded approach with Erik ten Hag, which we thought that's what we were gonna get with him at Ajax. He comes into this United team, and we don't see that attack-minded style of play. In fact, there's a lot of games that they're more pragmatic and they're hard to watch. So at least now, you just bring in a manager that's comfortable being pragmatic, that plays with the back three, that has a solid defense, a solid unit, and something that they can base on play off of a building block, a fundamental. So is he a good fit for Manchester United? I would say yes, but look, there's deep-rooted issues with Manchester United that goes back all the way to Sir Alex Ferguson leaving. And I've been saying this countless time and over again. There's deep-rooted issues. They've went through plenty of managers over Sir Alex Ferguson. Eventually, the managers cannot be the problem every single time. Eventually, there's a higher authority within that football club that needs to pay the price for this. But again, you can't pay the price for it because, the owners can be sacked. And yes, this new ownership group, or not new ownership group, new footballing operations came in with Sir Jim Ratcliffe taking over part of Manchester United. But do we really have faith in the way that they handled this Erik ten Hag situation? Do we really have faith in Sir Jim Ratcliffe and this current group that runs the footballing operations at Manchester United? I still think there's incompetence there. I still think it reeks of the same incompetence that we've seen of United since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And this goes back to Sir Alex Ferguson leaving. Even a few years before he left, Sir Alex Ferguson was just covering over the cracks of a Manchester United team that was rotten to the core. And now they're not even just rotten in the core. The stadium is rotten. The rotten of the club is visible now. At first, it wasn't even visible. Now it's visible when you go into Old Trafford, when you see what the former United legends talk about Old Trafford. How it used to be a fortress, how it used to be the best in class. Now the stadium is literally rotting. And it's a good description of the club. But you can go on and on for hours about the issues with Manchester United. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll do a full reaction to this weekend's Premier League fixtures.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we discussed whether or not Ruben Amorim is a good fit for Manchester United. We move on to do a full reaction to this weekend's Premier League fixtures. Obviously, there was a lot of really good games. We discussed a little bit about Arsenal and Liverpool on yesterday's show. But yeah, we'll go through. We already discussed Nottingham Forest to win over Leicester City because that game happened on Friday, and we did a Premier League preview for the weekend's fixtures that Friday later that night. So we talked about that Nottingham Forest game, but obviously big win for Nottingham Forest that have had a really good start to their season, sitting 7th already on 16 points through 9 games. I fully expected this team to be in the midst of a relegation battle. Well, guess what? Through 9 games, they're about halfway out of the relegation battle. So clearly they are not in the relegation battle to begin with. I was completely wrong on them. His name is mistaken my mind. The former Wolves manager, he was at Tottenham first, Nuno Espirito Santos. What he's done with this Nottingham Forest team, how efficient that they are, despite how, they don't create much going forward, but defensively they're pretty solid and they take advantage of certain moments. They have Chris Woods, that direct nature of him, and who's up there with, in terms of goals. I believe he has 7 goals this season, which is more than, which is a little less than 70% of their goals that they've scored this season in the Premier League. They've only scored 11 goals, 4 without Chris Wood. They've been efficient, and I've been impressed with Nottingham Forest, I have to say. Chris Wood has had a really, really good season for them. City got the marginal 1-0 victory over Southampton. 1-0 win from Erling Haaland. Once the goal came from Erling Haaland in the 5th minute, we just knew that it was going to be a little bit of a difficulty for Southampton to come back into this game. The quality difference between the two is the difference between the two is pretty vast. I have to say, Rashford, he was on Erling Haaland, he got yet another goal for them. Then City moved to the top of the league now. It was a hard-fought victory. They had to dig in. They couldn't get that second throughout the game, even though they did a really good job of controlling the game with possession. And when you have the ball, the other team doesn't, and it's hard to get back into the game if you can't get on the ball. And that's really what it came down to. City, they do a good job once they get that a goal early, that even if they don't get that second and third goal and see you off, they could still control the ball for 60%, 57% of the game, complete 616 passes, have 92% pass accuracy, and take the air out of the ball. And when you only have the ball 40% of the time, you struggle to create enough clear-cut out opportunities. And Southampton already don't have the quality really to compete with Manchester City. And with this win, City moved back into the top of the league, with Liverpool dropping points to Arsenal. So a good win for Manchester City. And these are the sort of games that you underrate, because they could go the other way, but just the professionalism with City, they always get it done. And the thing also with City is, I talked about how they can be a boring team to watch because how the professionalism it requires to be consistent as City is. It's sometimes it is boring because you take less risks and it's harder to watch and it's robotic, but it gets the results at the end of the day. It's a consistent nature about it, a consistent dominance. And Manchester City, great win for them. Brentford, 4-3 win over Ipswich Town. Winning goal from Brian Mbeumo, who, by the way, Brian Mbeumo, I talked about Chris Wood. And Mbeumo, he's up there as well in terms of goals scored this season. The French midfielder, he has scored, I believe he has 8 goals this season. Yeah, 8 goals in 9 games. And Mbeumo does. Brentford, they're so good at getting these getting these players that can make an impact. This is Mbeumo has 53 goals and 193 appearances now for Brentford. This season he's been really, really good. Mbeumo, by the way, was a player in his loan season and the senior team at Troyes in the French league. He only had 11 goals in 41 games. And what they've been able to do with it, what they've been able to see with him, Brentford, they just do a good job in terms of being able to identify talents. And we know Brentford, they can be a really good team to watch. They controlled the possession of the game. They created more opportunities. The game was close because I thought Ipswich was comfortable without the ball, and they took advantage of individual moments. But it was a late goal from Brentford. Important win for Brentford again. Ipswich, disappointing loss for them because they were in it. Heartbreak to lose it at the end, because every point does matter, and they're trying to get their first 3 points of the season. But yeah, for Brentford, that's a good 3 points, and now they sit on 13 points in 9th place. Great win for them. Brighton Wolves 2-2. Steady improvement from Wolves, I do have to say. I think Wolves are still conceding goals. And that's an issue. They're still open to play against. They're still conceding in bad ways. And this one was a wild game. Welbeck taking the lead right before halftime. Then it went off in the last. Brighton getting that second through Ferguson, 85th minute. You're thinking, okay, this is game over. Wolves are buried. Another disappointing loss for them. They're on the verge of sitting on 1 point after 9 games. But then you had the miraculous comeback from Wolverhampton late on with Ainori and Matheus Cunha. And the Wolves are hanging on. Wolves are hanging on. They're defensively so easy to play against. They concede way too many goals. Don't let this comeback fool you. They can be in a good spirit because of the comeback, but this is still a team that has a lot of issues to work on. And Gary O'Neill needs to get needs to get back on the training pitch because again, they're just too easy to play against. Way too much space. And for Brighton, that's obviously so heartbreaking to lose in that fashion. It was think about the emotions going through. You get that second goal from Ferguson, you're thinking just game over, and suddenly like that you concede 2 and drop points, and it's big drop points because if they were able to get that win, they're sitting on 18 points level with Arsenal and Villa and 3rd and 4th place. They're level with those teams. Instead, now they're sitting in 6th, and these are you can't drop those sort of games. you can't. But Brighton, honestly, they have exceeded expectation, my expectation at least, for them entering this season. So, obviously it's you know, there's that part of it. But still, I think Brighton are better than that, better than conceding too late on. Aston Villa 1-1 draw with Bournemouth. Good result from Bournemouth. Going away to Villa, that can be a difficult place to play in, and to get that result. Late goal from Evan Nielsen. Ross Barkley gave Aston Villa the lead, and then Evan Nielsen getting that late goal to equalize for Bournemouth. Taking advantage when the opportunity came for that equalizer. Really, really good point for Bournemouth. For Villa, these sort of games happen. The important thing is to continue to maintain your consistency going forward, and don't let this one bad result lead to another bad result, in which Aston Villa, they've done a good job in preventing a consistency of bad results. Everton 1-1 draw with Fulham. Everton are slowly starting to see themselves out now with 9 points after 9 games. They had a really, really good, really bad start. I believe they lost their first 4 Premier League games or something of that sort. Since then, they've went on to win a few games, get points in others. If you're a team, and I don't know, I didn't expect Everton to really be in a relegation battle at all. But, playing home at Goodison, you expect a win. But getting that equalizer in the manner that you got the equalizer to, that late dramatic goal from Beto. By the way, there's been a lot of late goals this weekend as well in the Premier League. Getting that late dramatic goal can be a catalyst to build something forward, especially after the, recent results that Everton have been able to get on. I think they've had a good response to the really bad start that they've had. West Ham beating United. We already discussed the fallout with Sir Alex Ferguson. With Eric Ten Hag after the game. He was sacked. Obviously, there's drama regarding that game with West Ham taking the lead, United equalizing, and then that penalty. But we're not going to go too much in depth of it. The big talking point is Ten Hag gets sacked. So, but for West Ham, that is a good win for them. They're sitting in 13th place and 11th. United sitting on 14th place with 11 points. Yeah, we already talked about Arsenal beating Liverpool. Crystal Palace 1-0 win over Tottenham. Look, wow. I thought Tottenham would, they controlled 67% of the possession of this game, but no cutting edge yet again. I really expected Tottenham to create a lot more opportunities than what they did. I mean, they had 67% of the possession, but they didn't really test Crystal Palace at all. Dean Henderson didn't really get tested as I expected. It was a bad showing at the office. And Tottenham, they solved that issue recently of, the lack of cutting edge. They've had, they've scored 2 and 3 goals for now multiple games now. They had that consistency of being able to get the ball into the back of the net. But in this game, just didn't create enough clear-cut opportunities. I thought they got that final ball wrong many times. I thought they had, they looked with a lack of knowledge on how to break it down. Once they got to the final third, I thought it looked very shaky. Now the front three is not the best front three. You have Ben and Johnson, who's been okay. Solanke, it's a work in process. Mickey Moore coming in, the 17-year-old for Son, who wasn't available, and they just lack that continuity and lack that know-how on how to break that defense. Even though they had a lot of the possession, just didn't create enough. Did not create enough. And yeah, it really comes down with that. Chelsea, they got the win over Newcastle. We'll go a little bit more in depth with this in a later segment. But yeah, big win for Chelsea against Newcastle. Playing some really good football. Chelsea have been in that first half, was dynamic, created some good opportunities in transition. They're able to, Nicholas Jackson is playing the best football of his career. They're being able to take advantage of space in behind. They have the quality with the players in midfield to play that ball in behind. Cole Palmer, he has been absolutely electric. Great assist a great ball to play in the first opportunity, and then really good goal to take the lead after Isak's equalizer. Look, I've been really impressed with Chelsea this season, and we'll go more in depth of that on a later segment. So, short break here coming up. When we come back, we will do a full reaction to Atletico Madrid's loss to Real Betis.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed this weekend's Premier League fixtures. We move on to react to Atletico Madrid's loss to Real Betis. Another disappointing result for Atletico Madrid, who've been shockingly disappointing in the Champions League. 2 losses from the first 3 games, with sitting only on 3 points after the first 3. And I believe they are in the Champions League, they are 27th. They're not even in a position right now. If the Champions League ended, the group stage ended today, to be in that knockout stage game in January, just to get into the round of 16. They have been underwhelming in La Liga. They've been pretty mediocre. Keep in mind, this was an Atletico Madrid that there was some expectations entering the season that they'll be able to compete with Barcelona and Real Madrid. Well, guess what? I'm sitting here after 11 games. Forget about it. Forget about that. They're 10 points behind Barcelona already. They're 4 points behind Real Madrid, which seems manageable, but 10 points behind Barcelona. And they don't look like a team they don't look like a team that should be in the conversations of competing for La Liga. Just forget about it. So now it's another season of just getting into the top 4. Make sure you get into the top 4 and see what you can do in the Champions League, in which you've already had a really bad start. I've been so disappointed with Atletico Madrid this season. Now, Real Betis, so far to start off La Liga, they've been pretty impressive. They are sitting 6th place right now, and they have some quality. Real Betis does. There's no disrespecting Real Betis when I'm making this analysis. I think they played some really, really good football, and if you watch the game, 1-0 was probably not deserved. Real Betis probably deserved to win this game 3-0. They played some really, really good football. They created some really good opportunities. Oblak had to make a save here and there. They had 24 shots to Atletico Madrid's 10, despite only having 40% possession of the ball. Yeah, they got that goal early through the Jose Jimenez's goal. They had that goal through Jose Jimenez's goal, own goal early on, but and that's how they scored the breakthrough. But they created a lot of opportunities to potentially get a second and a third, and yeah, I have to say, regarding Real Betis, I thought they played a really, really good game. I think they have some quality players, some cute and clever, tidy players. We've seen Johnny Cardoso play on the U.S. men's national team. They have Victor Roque. We know the situation in Barcelona. Him there. Ezalzoli another former Barcelona player with some real quality as well. They have about this, but going back to Atletico Madrid, there's just so many problems with Atletico Madrid. Number one, do they want to be pragmatic? Do they not? Do they want to be pragmatic? Do they not? Are they playing a defensive game, or do they want to control the game? Obviously, they have the fundamentals of keeping everything in front of you and playing off that, and keeping it tight and keeping compact. But there's a way to play good attacking football and still be compact. They can't find that balance right now, and also there is no continuity with this team. Diego Simeone, he needs to choose a formation, a starting 11, and go with it game in, game out to build continuity. No matter if it looks crap or not, or they look amazing, just choose something and just put it on the field. Put on the field whatever he thinks is the best going forward for a game in, game out basis, because he's doing a lot of mixing and matching and there's no continuity being developed. Number one, the formation. Sometimes he goes with the back 5 or back 3. Sometimes he's playing the back 4. And when he plays the back 3, he can't have that third attacker in there. He's having to sacrifice an attacker. When he plays the back 4, then he can bring in a third attacker. Now this game, he plays the back 4, but he only had 2 attackers because he wanted to load in the midfield. Play Koke, Gallagher, Lino, and Rodrigo. He's just changing it up. There's no continuity. It's a new thing after new thing. It's always new in terms of the, even if they go with the front 2, we don't know what combination is it. Whether it's a Julian Alvarez and a Griezmann, whether it's a Griezmann and a Sorlos, whether it's a Julian Alvarez and a Sorlos. The front 2, front 3 can't develop any continuity. Now, if they are able to bring in that extra player and they play all Griezmann, Alvarez, Sorlas, if that's the answer, okay, you have to sacrifice one of the defenders, or you have to sacrifice one of those midfielders. Today they went with 4 midfielders, and in previous games that they've that they have only had 2 attackers, they played with 5 defenders or 3 defenders, a back 5. They need to build some sort of consistency, and to do that, you need continuity. You need to have a set starting 11. You do. Whether it is bringing in Sorlas, you play in a front 3, okay, then you want to play that, then you need to, either have play with 3 midfielders and 4 defenders, or then if you want to play a front 2, okay, then have 2 set guys that can play game in, game out. Stop mix matching, because they can't build no continuity. If one day Sorlos is in, the other day Alvarez is in, the other day is Griezmann in. You need continuity. Whatever Diego Simeone thinks is the best formation to get results game in, game out needs to be the 11 present game in, game out, or at least on a consistent basis, enough of a consistent basis to develop some consistency. Every game I tune into Atletico Madrid, the starting 11, it's a new attack, it's a new formation, it's a new setup. Enough of that. You can't build any continuity doing that. And once you start building the continuity and you have that set starting 11, then we'll see some patterns of play. Then we'll see an approach that can be a consistent nature, and we'll get consistent performances, and we'll get better chemistry developed. But we're not getting that because Diego Simeone, I wanted to say Diego Simeone, he doesn't know his best team. Well, he doesn't know his best attack, let alone his best team. He can't even decide what's his best attack, let alone of his first team. So that's something he needs to figure out. I thought after this international break was a perfect opportunity for him to figure it out. But clearly that's not the case. This past Sunday, he went with, oh, by the way, someone I didn't include in part of this, Correa as well. Not this past Sunday, on October 9th against Leganés, October 20th against Leganés, the first game since the international break. He went with Correa and Sorlos up top, with Griezmann playing underneath them in a weird formation. He had Koke, Barrios, and Riquelme in the midfield. That was one team. The next game, that shocking loss that they had to Lille, they played Sorlos, Griezmann, Alvarez. It was back to the front 3. In my opinion, this is what I expected to be the starting 11 entering the season. I think this is their starting 11 where they get the most quality on the pitch. against Lille. That front three of Griezmann, Soros, Julian Alvarez. He played that formation as well against Real Madrid. So you see in some of the more important games, it seems like this is what he has the most confidence in, that front three, with the normal 4-3-3 that they play with DePaul, Koke, and Gallagher in midfield. You have that loss that you suffered against Lille. Okay, now it's time to change it up again for this, past Sunday's game against Real Betis, where he went with Griezmann and Alvarez up top with that extra midfielder playing in there, that 4-4-2. One day it's a 4-4-2, one day it's a 4-3-3, the other day it's a 4-1-3-2. Figure it out. Figure out the attack. Now, it's clear when you see them play their more important games, that when they play that, big game that they had against Lille in the Champions League, when they played against Real Madrid in the derby, he won with Griezmann, Sorlos, Julian Alvarez up top. Now, yes, you lost to Lille playing that front three, but it happens. Continue to go with that front three. Clearly, that's what you think is the best approach. Continue to play that front three, even against, in La Liga against a weak opposition, so they can build continuity. That's the big thing. We don't know how good of a team is. We don't see what the team is on a consistent basis. How can Simeone get the best out of his team if they're constantly, mixing and matching? That's my thing with Atletico Madrid, I have to say. And, it's sad. This La Liga campaign is over. They can still compete in the Champions League. With this new format, I don't think they're out of it, despite their 2 losses out of the 3 games. Now, in La Liga, they're out of the race, and there's some serious questions that Diego Simeone will need to answer. Questions that, quite frankly, I don't know how he's going to answer. But look, honestly, with the way that Barcelona has been playing this season, 10 wins from 11, it's hard to think that Atletico Madrid would have been able to compete with that in the first place. Let's just be for real. But what they can do is try to turn it around. Obviously, you need to get into the top 4. That's essential, and they'll do that. And see what you can do in the Champions League. They have the quality to be a deadly Champions League team, I have to say. Because they got players, they got quality that they can come up with individual moments of magic, which could be important in these 2-game knockout stage ties, sudden elimination games. And they have a manager that's capable of, he's reached multiple Champions League finals. He knows how to go on one of these runs. It's been a while, but he has that experience of doing that. So there's still a lot to play for Atletico Madrid so far this season, but to say it's been a disappointing start, again, I talked about United and earlier this season when I said, earlier this segment, the show, when I said to call United a mess is an understatement. Well, to say the start has been disappointing, I think it's a little bit of an understatement as well. You play 10 games and you've already dropped points in 6 of them, 5 draws and a loss. This is their first loss that they suffered in La Liga this season. It just, so many things are going wrong in these games. And even in some of the victories that Atletico Madrid have had this season, it's last gasp. It's tight margins. It's not comfortable victories. We're not getting that fluid football, that very good football, that dominance that we expected to see when you sign players like Julian Alvarez. So that's something Atletico Madrid need to figure out going forward. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will discuss Chelsea and whether or not they'll finish into the top 4.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
before the break, we discussed Atletico Madrid's loss to Real Betis. We move on to discuss Chelsea. Chelsea, they have beat Newcastle this past weekend. They beat Newcastle 3-1. They also take on Newcastle. Technically, since it's past midnight, it's today. Really, tomorrow. Technically, today they take on Newcastle again in the AFL Cup. Round of 16 at St. James's Park. This game in the Premier League was at Stamford Bridge. I discussed it a little bit on the second segment today. Really good win for Chelsea. They played some really, really good football. But the thing to answer now is Chelsea legitimately in the top 4 race? Will they finish into the top 4? Enzo Maresca, he came out and said there's no pressure for Chelsea to reach the top 4. He said he's under no pressure from Chelsea to secure that Champions League qualifications within the season. When he was at the news conference on Tuesday, he said, the club never mentioned to me about top 4. They always mentioned to me the target was to build something important for the next 4 or 5 years. For sure, we work every day to reach something important. Pressure on the players? I don't think so, to be honest. If you go game by game, you can see yourself where you are in the moment. If you start to think about top 4 or top 6, you are thinking about June. And for me, it's too far. Clearly he doesn't feel like he's under any sort of pressure to be in the top 4, which I think it's fair, given that he is a new manager in the Premier League. This is his first time managing in the Premier League ever, and you're taking over a Chelsea team in your first season. To expect them to finish top 4 was a little hard, because when you have a new manager, it is a little bit of a reset. But look, as the season goes on, your levels will create expectation for yourself. And it's important to remember what we expected from this Chelsea team before this season. Of course, don't get me wrong about that, but I think it's fair to the expectations to increase throughout the season, because this is a Chelsea team that has invested a lot of money, a lot of capital to the squad. They have a lot of quality, not just in the starting 11, in the bench, just looking based on the transfer value. And yes, Maresca, he is a new manager, and he deserves patience and all that. And I don't think he should be chastised or anything if they don't reach the top 4. Don't get me wrong, and there should be no pressure to reach the top 4. But I think as time goes on, the expectations should continue to grow, because, look, they've been very, very impressive. And I tip my hat to Enzo Maresca, what he's been able to do with this Chelsea team, how there's a consistency about them, how they're able to attack, they're able to take advantage of space whenever it's provided, how they just look much more deadly on the counter, much more cutting edge. The timing of the runs from these Chelsea players just much better than what we've seen in the past, how they can take advantage of space, how they're much more clinical as well. They have that cutting edge. They're creating some real clear cut out opportunities, and they're taking advantage of the space when it's provided to them. And it's been absolutely brilliant. Now, Chelsea teams in the past, they've also been able to take advantage of the space when provided for them, but they have not been clinical. This team has been able to be clinical. When the opportunities come, they've been good. And a lot has to do with the what's the good way to do it? With the elevation of the play from Nicholas Jackson. I think he's been much better so far the last season. He's taken advantage when the opportunity have came, and I've been really, really pleased with his performances. 6 goals already so far this season. I think he's been pretty impressive. When the opportunities come, he's taken advantage of them. And last season, a lot of the goals that he scored have been, just pure and simple tap-ins. But this season, he's making those runs. He's finishing the one-on-ones. He's taking advantage of opportunities that come from set pieces. His build-up, his ability to build out a play, him being a connector. He's allowing plays to progress more. Then when he makes those runs in behind, this pace can be devastatingly difficult to deal with, and he's giving center backs nightmare. I've been really, really impressed with him. He's had some professional performances so far this season, and he's been much better than last season. He's been much, much better. And what Chelsea have done so far this season, how they sit in the standings, how much goals that they've scored this season is a direct reflection as well of Nicholas Jackson's elevation of play from last season, which maybe we were too harsh on him last season. This was a dude that, was coming into the Premier League for his first season, and it was always going to be a transition. But to be fair, there was a lot of just hard things to watch last season, not just with Nicholas Jackson, but with Chelsea. And yeah, I'm very impressed. I'm very, very impressed with this Chelsea team, and I think the progression has been much faster than what I expected. They lost to City and Liverpool, who are currently sitting first and second place. And in both games, there was some really positive signs as well that to take from both games. But you take away those two losses, or if you take away those two games against the first and second place team in the Premier League, they have 5 wins, 2 draws. They're playing some really excellent football. They've looked good so far in the Conference League as well, but that's I wouldn't say the Conference League is the highest level of competition. Of course, beating Panathinaikos 4-1 is not the most impressive, although you're doing it with the second unit. But there is still quality with this Chelsea team. You're looking at what makes this Chelsea team deadly is some of the players that haven't had the biggest impact so far this season is because they can't even get in. You have players like João Felix who doesn't see the pitch at all against Newcastle. Jadon Sancho doesn't see the pitch. Enzo Fernandez, he was benched against Newcastle. Mikhailo Mudryk, he hasn't seen much football this season, period, because of the players ahead of him. This was a dude that came into Chelsea for 100 million. Christopher Nkunku, he hasn't been able to break into that starting 11. There's some quality in this pitch. This is a super team, and you look going forward, if they can develop that winning mentality, they have the quality, they have the depth on the bench to compete with a team like City. What City have been able to do, have a first and second unit that can compete. Chelsea are in the process of building that unit, having a first and second team that can compete. This is a Chelsea team that's experienced, that's only experience away from a potential title challenge within the next few seasons. There's no hesitation in my mind when I make such claims. When you have the depth that this Chelsea team has, when you're seeing the consistency they're developing so far this season, getting the results, getting the victories in games that they need to win, it's been completely unprofessional. I have to say I was a little skeptical of Enzo Maresca, but what he's done since he's come in, the performances, the results, how he carries himself in the post-game press conferences, the news conferences, everything about Chelsea so far this season has been professional. And in seasons in the past, it's been a little bit of a clown show, and it's been really hard to watch as a Chelsea fan. I wake up in the weekend mornings excited to watch Chelsea this season. I haven't said that. I couldn't say that many times the past 2 years. In fact, I really couldn't say that, period. And Enzo Maresca, he has a huge part of that, I have to say. And the elevation of these players as well. This is a Chelsea team that definitely can expect to finish in the top 4, and finishing in the top 4 will be difficult because the Premier League has some really good teams, and obviously City, Liverpool, Arsenal, they're almost locks. Aston Villa, that's gonna be a difficult team to finish ahead of. Brighton, I think Nottingham Forest, I don't think that'll be much competition. I do worry about Tottenham because Tottenham, they do have that ability to play some really good football, and they have quality to compete with Chelsea. But with already a 4-point gap over Tottenham, and some of Tottenham's struggles this season, I don't think that they're, I don't know. I think they'll be up there, but I don't, will they be able to finish ahead of Chelsea? I don't know. But Aston Villa, that's the one. That would be difficult. Now, can playing in Europe throw Aston Villa off down the line, maybe. But as of right now, they've been dominant in Europe. They've been really good in the Premier League. They actually dropped points this weekend, but although they're still sitting in fourth place for a reason, that would be a good race. That would be a good race. But definitely, 1,000%, the question is not whether Chelsea will finish in the top four or not. I mean, if the question is whether will Chelsea finish in the top four, it's about 50-50. If I had to lock it in now, I'll probably say yes, but I'm definitely hesitant about it. But if the question is, can Chelsea finish in the top four? Well, absolutely they can. 100% unequivocally, this is a team that will compete for the top four and will definitely be there near the end of the season, in that race to finish in the top four. No doubts about that in my mind. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we will react to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Before the break, we discussed Chelsea and whether or not they'll finish into the top four. We move on to react to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. We have to start off with Ronaldo. Al Nassr is out of the King Cup as Ronaldo missed the late penalty in Al Nassr exit of the Saudis King Cup at the against Al Tawun. I think I'm saying that wrong, but yeah, Ronaldo, he missed the penalty in stoppage time in the second half. This is Cristiano Ronaldo. He has yet to win a major trophy since he signed for the club about 2 years ago now, and Al Tawun, they took the lead in the 71st minute through Walid Al-Ahmed, and the game looked like it was slipping away, but Al Nassr were given a penalty later on. Ronaldo, he never missed a penalty actually for Al Nassr. He's 18 of 18, but he skied over the bar. This is actually Stefano Pioli's first defeat since he joined Al Nassr. Pioli after the game saying, "Technically we performed well, but we couldn't win the game. We feel disappointed to be out of the cup, but we still have 2 trophies to go for, and we will give our best in them." Yeah. Jose Mourinho said, another one of his theories said UEFA is not giving him honest treatment. Mourinho, he was telling Sky Sports in an interview, he said, "The feeling is I am in trouble in Europe. I lost the final in a way that I still don't accept, and since then I feel it. I don't want to have special treatment. I want to have honest treatment. Just that. So if I do something wrong, punish and pay. But if I do something wrong, leave me in peace. But it's getting difficult. Since that Budapest final, it's getting difficult. I deserve to be treated like everybody else. On the pitch, it doesn't matter if you are Lionel Messi or playing your first match. The rules are the same for Messi and the young kid. And for coaches, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're Carlo Ancelotti or a young coach just starting. Ancelotti has to behave the same way as the young kid has to behave. That's what I want for myself, and that's what I'm not getting. Mourinho actually said after the game that against United that his next job will have to be at an English club not involved in UEFA competition. This has then unstringed a little bit of controversy, and he had to clarify his statement saying, "I made a joke. I'm never going to a team fighting for fighting relegation. I will never go. I get upset, and I'm not in the period of my career to get upset. I'm in the period of my career to be happy all the time, and at the moment playing in European competitions, I'm getting upset all the time, but I'm not going to fight relegation. It's too hard. Honestly, I believe that it has to be the hardest things. It's more difficult than playing for titles. It has to be very emotionally because it has to be very hard emotionally because it is something that changes life. I think it's brave guys that do it. But yeah, thank you guys though for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go